FBI. Who is it? Well, Federal Bureau of Investigations. What is it? Corrupt as fuck. Why is it here? Don't know. It's totally redundant at this point. Let's go over a brief history of it, shall we? In care of the History Channel. It's a redundant institution at this point. It was initially set up because the DOJ couldn't, effectively carry out their own probes. So, J. Edgar Hoover, who you might have seen his little propaganda movie from a few years ago, got himself installed at the Department of Justice and got his little group of G-men together, and then they went out there to fight the Prohibition cause. And that was the initial temporary solution for dealing with that cause. The FBI, the formation of this very necessary group, and then eventually they just continued to find very important and necessary causes for them to fight, and there was never an instance of them being corrupt or abusive of their own power whatsoever throughout their entire history. Not once, not ever. On July 26th, 1908, the Federal Bureau of Investigations is born in the United States via Attorney General Charles Bonaparte. Orders a group of newly hired federal investigators to report to the Chief Examiner Stanley W. Finch of the Department of Justice. 1 year later, the Office of the Chief Examiner was renamed the Bureau of Investigations, and in 1935 it became the FBI. When the Department of Justice was created in 1870 to enforce federal law and coordinate judicial policy, it had no permanent investigators on its staff. That has since been rectified, care of the Department of Justice probes that are currently going on with the Capitol Hill riot, with which I think Durham is still doing an investigation into something. Haven't heard that fucker do anything lately, but yeah, that's very much been rectified. So why was that established, and why wasn't the FBI abolished, or why did it create another redundant collective? Oh, it's the United States government. That would be why. Remember, the government, regardless of where it is, the United States, Canada, Zimbabwe, it never voluntarily gets smaller. It only grows larger. At first, it hired private detectives, when it needed federal crimes investigated, and later rented out investigators from other federal agencies, which would have been a fine solution, such as the Secret Service, which was created by the Department of the Treasury in 1865 to investigate counterfeiting, because government's got to get paid, right? In the early part of the 20th century, the Attorney General was authorized to hire a few permanent investigators, and the Office of the Chief Examiner, which consisted mostly of accountants, was created to review financial transactions of the federal courts. Skip over some more boring procedural stuff, but if you want to read the rest of it, I'll link it in the description, of course. Meanwhile, J. Edgar Hoover, closet queer, a lawyer and former librarian, you could kind of tell, but I shouldn't have been redundant, joined the Department of Justice in 1917, and within 2 years became special assistant to Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer, Deeply anti-radical in his ideology, Hoover came to the forefront of the federal law enforcement during the so-called Red Scare of 1919 and 1920. If only they would have got rid of every communist ever. That's how we achieved the utopia, by the way. Anyways, he set up a card index system listing every radical leader, organization, and publication in the United States, and by 1921 had amassed some 450,000 files, More than 10,000 suspected communists were also arrested during this period, yay, but the vast majority of those people were briefly questioned and then released, boo. Although the Attorney General was criticized for abusing his power during the so-called Palmer raids, Hoover emerged unscathed. Of course he did, just like many of his future FBI counterparts. And on May 10th, 24, he was appointed acting director of the Bureau of Investigations. Fucking weird, huh? And here's its foundations. During the 1920s, with Congress's approval, Director Hoover drastically restructured and expanded the Bureau of Investigation. He built an agency into an efficient crime-fighting machine, establishing a centralized fingerprint file, a crime laboratory, and training school for agents. All very necessary, all very appreciated. In the 1930s, the Bureau of Investigation launched a dramatic battle against the epidemic of organized crime brought on by Prohibition. Notorious gangsters such as Machine Gun Kelly, not that one who tongue kisses that ancient old bag of bones Megan Fox out in public like a fucking degenerate, and John Dillinger met their ends looking down the barrel of Bureau-issued guns while others like Louis Lepke Buchalter, the elusive head of Murder Incorporated, were successfully investigated and prosecuted by Hoover's G-men. Hoover had been keen eye for public relations, participated in a number of widely publicized arrests, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, as known after 1935, became highly regarded by Congress and others and the American public. Dramatized for consumption, I'm sure. That's initially why the FBI was created, right? Because Hoover was still the director of the Bureau of Investigations. Hadn't been federalized yet. Hadn't been established yet. That was only to go after guys who had committed crimes for something that was illegal. Legal. Before the government made it a problem, therefore creating their own secret police force that just had jurisdiction across the entirety of the United States. Weird how that stuff works, right? It's like the government creates a problem and then it creates another problem solver in order to fight future problems that they think that they might be able to establish later in the future. Weird. And just more reasons to hate bureaucrats. By the time Hoover entered service under his 8th president in 1969, the media, the public, and Congress had grown suspicious that the FBI might be abusing its authorities. So all the way back in 1969, the summer of love, people were already suspecting that the FBI had probably outlived their temporary status that they had acquired some 70 years prior, nearly. And that they had just seen a president lose the top of their skull not that long ago. And, not really get to the bottom of that whatsoever. Yeah, they thought that it was just a little bit of a unnecessary and perhaps corrupt institution. For the first time in his bureaucratic career, Hoover endured widespread criticism, and Congress responded by passing laws requiring Senate confirmation of future FBI directors and limiting their tenure to 10 years. Ooh, a guy who had been serving in government since the fucking 20s was allowed to be around for 50 years. Anybody who's in government that long should probably have their entire life audited because, well, taxpayers had been funding them for that long, so why not? May 2nd, 1972, with the Watergate scandal about to explode onto the national stage, Hoover died of heart disease at 77. Sucks to suck. Watergate affair subsequently revealed that the FBI had illegally protected Richard Nixon from investigation, and the agency was thoroughly investigated by Congress. Revelations of the FBI's abuses of power and unconstitutional surveillance motivated Congress and the media to become more vigilant in the future monitoring of the FBI, and if only they would have kept up on that, and the FBI wouldn't have become the cesspool that it currently is. Because, hey, originally, they were covering for the president, okay? At least that's what was revealed. We'll have to go through Watergate in much more detail at a later date, but hey, they're covering for the president, and now they're just running trains on justice. And on interns, apparently. Here's what should be front page news. Slimy FBI bigwigs sexually harassed as juniors drank on the job. And did so much more than that. Slimy and creepy Uncle Joe, ranking FBI agent groped 3 of his female subordinates, made inappropriate sexual comments in the workplace, and regularly drank on the job. According to documents obtained by the New York Post, the unidentified G-man who worked as a supervisory assistant special agent in charge was investigated by the Department of Justice Inspector General's office, which substantiated 3 allegations of unwanted sexual touching and the illegal boozing, according to documents which were obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request. So this is legit. I'm going to keep that right there. Details about when and where the conduct took place were redacted, but the records show that the allegations were investigated by the New York field office, and the probe was completed on December 7th, 2020. Okay, this would have been covered a lot more in a lot more detail, and perhaps more news would have been made about it, but what was going on at that point? What was the media running with? Oh my god, December 7th of 2020. I don't know, something escapes me around that time that they were running around with their hair on fire about. Slips my mind at the moment. The creepy G-man allegedly targeted his junior colleagues at booze-filled after-work events at bars as well as the workplace, according to the documents. In one of the instances, the assistant special agent in charge allegedly fondled another FBI employee while they were standing with 2 other colleagues at an unidentified watering hole. How terrific. Can't believe that this is actually in the report, but hey, this is what it is. Do you think I should try to sleep with her? He allegedly asked one of his colleagues, then he rubbed her vagina and he grabbed her by the pussy. How delightful. And buttocks over her clothing, while his hand on multiple occasions for a few seconds each time. Okay, if he did that multiple times, and he didn't receive a negative response because of it, Sounds like something went south later, and not like he tried to do with his hand. A friend who witnessed the groping texted the victim later that night to check on her. You okay? I know I asked already, but we put up with a lot for the sake of not rocking the boat. I just wanted to make sure. That's a little bit different. It was gross and creepy. He was touching me in some parts of me repeatedly, so not by accident, but like you said, we put up with a lot, not so to rock the boat, the victim texted back. Okay, I already hate these people. The victim filed a criminal complaint with the unspecified law enforcement body, but federal and state prosecutors at the G-Men was declined, the Inspector General's office said. At least she filed a report, okay? So, based on what we already seen with the FBI's history of looking after their own, this totally makes sense. This totally makes sense. Another woman who worked under the assistant special agent in charge told investigators he would rub her shoulders and worked together after saying she seemed tense. Okay, so now we got a Cuomo situation. If this is a different person making these allegations, yeah, sure, it makes everything line up a little bit better, but again, it's just rubbing shoulders. Probably because she was sitting down, and unless he pretended to stumble and they had corresponding magnets in their nose and clit, I don't think that there would be much of an explanation for that. Then, at an after-hours work event at a bar, he grabbed her butt. Oh my god, this guy. Definitely know he's an ass man. After saying to her, "Tell me that you want me," the docs state. Interesting. Whenever I see these reports or these allegations or such, whenever they come out, these just guys, the guys who do this stuff always just seem like the least couth motherfuckers who's dealing with women, just didn't grow any farther than middle school. It only got to the point where, yeah, if you like the girl, you pull her hair, and it's like, that's as far as they got. It's like, yeah, giving creepy shoulder rubs and then grabbing asses. Cool, pal. I guess flashing the badge didn't work. Or the old pickup line is, "Hi, I have a warrant, and I'm going to have to strip search ya." I didn't exactly hold as much authority as he would have hoped. Another witness said he once boorishly asked, "Do I think she does..." "Do you think she does anal?" as she was perched upon an overturned stool. No, he was actually just talking about butt chugging. That's all. About one of his female colleagues. Ugh, what a creep. Investigators also determined the assistant special agent in charge regularly drank on the job, including with foreign law enforcement officials and members of the United States military. Investigators found 2 bottles of wine and an empty bottle of Gilles Valent scotch under the agent's desk. Oh my god. Oh, as well as a bottle full of whiskey and a small bottle of liquor on his bookshelf. They also recovered a Rock's glasses. So he gets a little handsy when he's drunk. Okay, fair enough. Now, this guy sounds like a creep, and because it's the FBI, yeah, and they have a very long history, very, very, very long history of looking out for their own, the whole windbreaker brigade, and you talk with regular police officers, and I have some extended family, south of the border, they, yeah, don't exactly have the highest opinion of FBI agents, so... Is it likely? Yeah, perhaps, based on the fact that there's the FOIA requests and there's actually written complaints against this creepy motherfucker. Yeah, I'm a little bit more liable to agree with these than, say, the Andrew Cuomo allegations, which magically just went out into the fucking ether. Weird what happens when the media starts glomming on to stuff like the Arizona audit or ragging on people for not getting the jab. It's amazing what they can make disappear for people that they like. I just thought that you guys might find this interesting because I found it sort of amusing, but just about par for the course for the FBI because I've known them to be fairly corrupt for a very long time. So hope you enjoyed that one. I feel bad for the lady who got her ass and crotch grabbed, but she probably got a few free drinks out of that. So a tit for tat, I suppose. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.